All right.
Okay, go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's Saturday, August 22nd, 2026. Recorded live from the English Valley's History Center. Here's Jackie.
My name is Jackie Geringer McDermott. This diary was written by Lib Wade. She was my dad's great aunt, and her full name was Mary Elizabeth Claypool Wade. Lib was 79 years old in February of 1954. She has lots of visitors each day because her house is close to downtown. Lib was one of the oldest members of a very large extended family on the Claypool and Wade sides of the house. She was very proud of her family history, and I would like to share that tradition with the modern generation. Lib lived in a house on East Oak Street in North English, Iowa with her son, Russell Wade. And here's a picture of Lib with her oldest great-granddaughter, Sue Kurtz. Monday, February 1st, 1954, a very spring-like day, but we who know Iowa also know we will have lots of winter yet. We are thankful, though, for days like this. Temperature today was in 40s and 50s. A week or so ago was 0 and below. I cooked chicken and dumplings, had a scalloped corn, gravy, salad, etc.
That sounds good.
Don Hall brought the repairs for the gas stove. Don Hall owned O.D. Hall Appliance downtown. Stella was here this p.m. She had heard that Cecil Markwell got sick in the night Saturday night. Bertha had called the doctor, but he died before the doctor arrived. His body was brought back to Powell's, South English, and the funeral will be tomorrow here in the Christian church. He was born January 17th, 1902, just a little past 52. Stella Markwell Wallace is Lib's neighbor and the mother of her daughter-in-law, Lena Wade. Cecil Markwell, who passed away, was her nephew, so he was Lena's cousin. The Powell family had a funeral home in South English in those days. It was located where the residence at 601 Monroe Street in South English is located today. Mary Regseger was here a while. I don't think she is very good either. Her face is swollen and she has had so much trouble with her neck. Mary Regseger was Lib's neighbor and friend. Here is a picture of her in the back row on the right with her late husband Fred and his Regseger family. Lena came in later. Her throat is still swollen and her legs hurt. She said she thought it would likely take a year to get the poison out of her system. She looks better than she did when she was here before. Lena Wallace Wade is Lib's daughter-in-law, married to her son Warren or Mike Wade. I don't know how Mr. Patterson is, but heard he had a stroke last week, about Friday, and was quite bad. I don't like to ring Minnie, not knowing how bad he may be. George Patterson, shown in this picture, with Edward Francis Wade on the left, George Patterson in the center, and Henry Wade on the right. George Patterson was the neighbor across the street in this house. 114 East Oak Street. His daughter, who he lives with, was Minnie Zelmer. Minnie Zelmer was the great-grandmother of Gary, Lonnie, and Kelly Baines, and Cindy Baines Belland. Tuesday, February 2nd, 1954. This is a spring day. It's like a spring day. A light misty rain for a while in the forenoon. Temperature was 54 degrees at noon in Des Moines. The sun came out and it is a wonderful day. Most too warm to have fire, but there is need for it too. Some ice out here north of the house, and when evening comes it will be chilly again. Wayne and Jenny were married on this date in 1920. I sent them an anniversary card. Wayne Wade and Jenny Butterbaugh Wade were Lib's oldest son and his wife, who live a block away on East Clark Street. Here is their picture later in life. And a card to Mr. and Mrs. John H. Jones of Williamsburg. Their 50th wedding anniversary is tomorrow. She was Carrie Walters when I knew her. Cecil Markwell's funeral is at the Christian Church at 2 today. I received a letter from Dale today. He is in Vets Hospital in Iowa City. Thinks he may be able to leave there in a few days. May go to Detroit or Tennessee, but said he would stop and see us before he left Iowa. Dale Bishop was a former neighbor who Lib has regularly written to since he has been in the service. He was wounded in Korea in 1950 and is still receiving treatment. I called over and talked to Lauren this PM. Mr. Patterson is quite bad. Can't talk at all but can swallow. Elsie Miller was here later. She had been over there. She said one side was helpless, but he kept the other leg moving. She thought he was conscious. Lauren Moffett was the grandfather of Lynn, Robert, and their sister Gloria Moffett. He was the boyfriend of Minnie Zilmer, and they will be married in May of 1954. Lauren is shown in this picture on the right with his grandson Robert Moffett and bride Suzanne Miller Moffett, and his second wife, Minnie Patterson Zilmer Moffett. Elsie Miller, that was telling her how Mr. Patterson was a neighbor from the Green Valley area. Elsie missed the WSCS meeting today, forgot what day it was. They were to elect officers today. WSCS is a women's group from the local Methodist church. Mrs. Cunningham called and talked to me this evening. She is home alone, is not very well, but can manage. Her family are in to see her often. Agnes Loretta Weldon Cunningham was a neighbor who was almost 77 years old and the widow of Patrick Cunningham. She was the mother of John Cunningham and Margaret Fancher. Wednesday, February 3rd, 1954. Another nice day, a little cooler and cloudy. Snow east of us yesterday and last night. Davenport and up through Maquoketa to Minnesota. Was so nice here. I didn't feel the best today. Something a little wrong. Gas in my stomach. Feels like the inside of my lungs was filled with hot air. I worked as usual in the forenoon, got dinner and washed dishes. I was looking through the Cappers Weeklies and discarding a lot of other old papers. Hattie came and spent the PM with me, brought her mending along. Hattie Newberry Killian is Lib's friend who owns a boarding house over on Boland Avenue. Cappers Weekly was a nifty little newspaper published weekly from 1913 to 1986 in Topeka, Kansas. It was targeted to residents in small towns and rural areas in America's Midwest and contained human interest stories, food articles, reader recipes, a medical column, a gardening column, etc. Walter's boys and Cinda were here. Belva came to get them. They were in a hurry. She has been papering. Walter, or Bud Wade, was Lib's grandson, and his boys were Jim and John Wade. Lucinda, or Cindy Yoss, was the daughter of his sister, Belva Yoss. Belva was doing some wallpapering today. Hazel called me today. They are all feeling fine now. Mary Elizabeth weighs 11.5 pounds now. She was 4 months old yesterday. Hazel Cobb is the sister of Bud Wade and Belva Yoss and is Lib's granddaughter. Her daughter, Mary Elizabeth, who she is holding in this picture, is named after Lib. Mary's married name was Mary Bauslag. Lila got home yesterday. She had a lovely trip. Was rather frightened on the trip up in the mountains. I would be too, I think, but it was nice that she went. Lila Cobb, shown on the left in this picture with her parents and her sister, was Hazel's mother-in-law. After supper, Russell was getting ready to go away. Frida came. She is one of those canvassing the town on the March of Dimes for polio research. He gave $1. Hope many others give as much. He helped someone else today who was in need of money. A loan, $10. The second one recently, $20. Russell Wade is Lib's youngest son, and she lives in his house with him. Frida Wade is married to Lib's grandson, Walter or Bud Wade, and she lives 2 doors down from Russell and Lib. According to the March of Dimes website, what began in 1938 with President Franklin D. Roosevelt's personal struggle with polio led to the creation of the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, better known as the March of Dimes. We pioneered the vaccine research leading to the eradication of polio in the U.S. and later expanded our mission to address issues of birth defects. In most recent decades, our mission shifted focus to healthy pregnancy and ending the preterm birth crisis with innovations like folic acid, newborn screening, and surfactant therapy. Russell went out to Mildred's a while. They are having a dance at the hall up here tonight for the March of Dimes. Mildred Reese was Russell's girlfriend, and she lived on a farm west of town. The IOOF hall was upstairs in the building west of Lib's house at the corner of Oak Street and Main Street, and the locker was downstairs. Thursday, February 4th, 1954. A bright, sunny day. Promise of more like it for the next few days. With the exception of extreme drought, there is no need to complain. We hope for plenty of moisture in spring, in time for the spring planting. I baked my cookies this forenoon. Had them mixed yesterday. I have pain in my chest, upper part. Had a hard coughing spell this morning. Got a yellowish chunk and a little blood with it. I've had like that a good many times, but not lately. I felt better in the afternoon. Saw where the sun shone on me. Sat over there where the sun shone on me. Over here by the window. Hattie called over. She was pretty tired. Heard that Carl and Everett Johnson bought the Height place north of the Catholic Church for their parents. Carl Johnson's shown here with his wife, Daisy. And Everett Johnson is in this picture. He's the 4th from the left. No, excuse me, the 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 5th. Right in the middle. Mrs. Laura Schultz and Valor were here this morning. The baby is growing so well. Walks when they go uptown. Laura Schultz was the wife of Norman Schultz, who was the brother to my faithful listener, Gary Schultz from Williamsburg. Valerie Schultz was the daughter of Loris and Norman Schultz. The next paragraph I was not able to decipher, but it is likely something that Laura Schultz told Lib. Mary is about as she has been. Her son and family are moving to Webster, I heard, to Mildred's mother's place. Some farmland there, and he hopes to rent more. Saw in the Williamsburg paper that J.C. Donahue of Holbrook was buried there today. I used to know him years ago. He was called the Bee Man. We bought honey of him. This is the J.C. Donahue obituary. Here is a little genealogy lesson. Keep looking if you can't find something that you know should exist. I looked for J.C. Donahue's obit in the Williamsburg newspaper archives, and I couldn't find it, which I thought to be odd, as Lib had read it right after he died in 1954. So I went to find a grave and put in J.C. Donahue and came up with his obituary, which was submitted by his son, John Donahue Sr., and his wife, Dorothy. I remember them, as they are the parents of John Donahue and his brother Chuck and their siblings from the Parnell area. You will notice that Donahue is spelled Donahoe in his obituary. Likely that is because there are other Donahoe families from that area that spell it that way. Talked to Jenny this evening. She still has that sinus trouble and feels pretty bad. The North English History Center has been operating on Main Street in North English since 2006. The center operates a museum and monthly programming, a community coffee shop, and provides meeting spaces for groups and organizations. These include family and class reunions, celebrations, gatherings, and club meetings. The History Center offers all of its services by donations only. It does not have annual memberships like many other historical organizations and relies largely on private and community donations. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization and donations are tax deductible. Your support of the History Center would help continue its operations and provide a valuable community asset. Please send donations to the English Valley's History Center, P.O. Box 70, North English, Iowa 52316. You might remember in the last broadcast, I said I could not find a picture of Ethel Lindsay, who was a granddaughter of pioneer ancestor Jacob Carter. Well, here she is. This picture is from the United Methodist Church membership book from about 1969. This book was in with donations given to the History Center by Shelley Crum, the daughter of Mary Ann and Richard Fuller. More about that book and that box of donations later as we unpack and put away the materials in the box. Acquisition of the week. Susan Bertram Searles from California sent this quilt. This is the John Newton and Bertha Ballard family quilt. Here is what Dave Jackson, president of the History Center and author of the Hinkletown book, said about this quilt. Oh, the joy. A box arrived at the History Center today from Opal Ballard Bertram's daughter, Susan Searles. Upon opening, can you imagine my surprise to find a nice note on top with simply, "Thank you. This is where the quilt should be, Susan." Beneath the neatly packed tissue was the Bertha and John Ballard family quilt, complete with 45 carefully stitched names, and a full history write-up and a key to the names on the quilt from Susan. Bertha started the quilt out at Hinkletown in the 1940s and finished it in the 1950s. The quilt is clean, almost pristine, and quite colorful, lovingly made from very old scraps of old fabrics that were popular in the days she had collected them at Hinkletown. We had a broadcast about Bertha Ballard's family in the past, and we told the story of her family. Bertha was a true pioneer who was left with her many children to raise after her husband committed suicide in 1924 at the age of 44. She could hunt and fish and trap and worked very hard to raise her children. She also had a softer side. She made quilts. She loved to take her grandchildren out fishing. Her daughter Opal was a close friend to Dave Jackson and very familiar to many in the North English area, as she and her husband Eldon Bertram ran the grocery store, which was located in this same building that the History Center is located in. Dave Jackson continued, "It brought back so many memories of when Opal would visit in the late 90s, and we'd walk to her old haunts, and she would tell me all the stories. One day, while walking through my timber, back behind where the old Hickory Ridge schoolhouse used to be, she stopped and paused at the sight of a clump of blooming peonies, coming up through a patch of mayflowers. Opal's beautiful blue eyes welled up a bit. Mother planted these here, back when we were in school, so all the school kids can enjoy them every year. That would have been in the 1920s. Today I call them Bertha's Century Peonies, and I take a picture each year when they bloom. I'm attaching this year's from June 2nd, and some pictures of the quilt and the key name sheet that Susan wrote up. And here are the names on the quilt. The last family members are 3 granddaughters born in 1953. Included are the names of my faithful listeners, Susan Searles from California and Louise Davis from Marengo. Not all the names are boys. For example, Randy Fobert and his brother Jerry have their names stitched on the quilt. Most are direct descendants of John and Bertha Ballard, but Bertha's good friend Neva Booth, the niece of her son-in-law Sherm Polton, is also named along with her family. And here's a picture of Bertha and Neva doing what they love best to do, fishing. Carter, Iowa and Yankee Point, Part 5, the David Carter family. You might remember that my dad's great-great-grandma, Anna Bramer Carter, later married William Raines, and they came to Iowa County in the 1850s and settled. Where Grandma Raines settled was at the farm that is now at 2378 360th Street, which is to the top of the hill and then east from Ballard's Bridge. Around Ballard's Bridge was the site of Carter, Iowa. This house on the top of the hill and to the east is now owned by a descendant. His ancestor was Grandma Raines' son, David Carter. The Yankee Point School, which was originally across the road, is the garage at this farm now. The children of Anna Bramer Carter Raines and her first husband Benjamin Carter were William and Harriet Holden Carter, Stephen, Oscar and his wife Charlotte Sears Carter, Jacob, David, and their only girl, Armella Carter, who married Frank Pettibone. I don't have a picture of David Carter and his wife, Cynthia Palmer Carter. David's wife was very sick in 1910 with typhoid fever, which was reported about in the same issue of the newspaper that reported Dave's funeral in 1910. In 1907, the couple had said that they were heading to Colorado in search of a better climate, but evidently didn't stay too long. Uncle David Carter, as he was called, suffered from asthma. His wife, Cynthia Palmer Carter, was a sister to Mary Ann Pettibone's husband, Jerome Palmer. Here's a picture of Jerome and Mary Ann Palmer. The mother of Jerome Palmer and Cynthia Palmer Carter was Laura Owen Palmer, and Laura was a sister to Abraham Owen, who settled in English Township, Iowa County. Laura lived next door to Abraham and is buried in Yankee Point Cemetery. The father of the Palmer children, James Palmer, died in 1850 and is buried out in Vermont. Her son Alan said that Cynthia was born in Pittsburgh Mills, Vermont. I have the town listed as Pittsford in Rutland County, Vermont. Cynthia and David Carter had 2 children, Alan Carter and Anna Carter. Alan Carter moved to Oregon and then to Kelso, Washington, and lived to be 85 years old. He was married to Clementine, or Clemmy, Bowman Carter, who lived until 1960 and was 97 years old when she died. Alan worked in the logging and lumber business and was a bridge tender over the Cowlitz River. They had 7 children, Guy, Lee, Ross, June, Clifton, Vernon, and Nick Carter. They came back sometimes for family events, and they were here in 1910 when his dad died. Anna Carter stayed on the Iowa family farm and married Samuel West. Here is a picture of Anna Carter West and her mother-in-law, Barbara Garver West. Anna West died in 1918 at the age of 43, and when all of her sons were under 20 years old. Anna and Samuel picked out unusual names for their boys. Their children were Northwest, Winter West, spelled W-Y-N-T-E-R, Farmer West, Juan West, spelled W-A-L-N West, Milo West, and Waldo West, who died when he was a baby. On to the boys and their stories. Northwest was married to Thelma King. They had a daughter named Ruth West, who was married to Jim Worrell. There's a picture of Ruth.
Yeah.
Northwest committed suicide when Ruth was very young. Thelma later married Clifford Claypool and lived in Williamsburg. Ruth and Jim Worrell's children were Pam, Jeff, and Ron Worrell. Winter West was married to Flossie Claypool, and they had a daughter, Barbara, and were divorced. I kind of remember Winter West, but I couldn't find a picture of him. He was a bearded, scruffy farmer who had shocks of wheat in his pastures north of North English on Iowa Highway 149 each fall. Flossie and Barbara lived in Oregon later in life and were brought back for burial in the Millersburg Cemetery because their ancestors on their mother's side were Cheneys. Farmer West lived in the Quad Cities area and was married to Iona McDowell. Farmer was employed as a concrete superintendent for a construction company. He and his wife had one daughter named Shelva. Juan West, spelled W-A-L-N, was married to Lulu Brown, and they had several girls who were adopted out to others. Milo West was married to Genevieve Griffin. They had one son named David West, who graduated from North English High School in 1953. David was married to Sue Barker, and they had three sons, Mike, Keith, and Matt, who attended English Valley schools. Milo and Jen continued to own and farm the Carter Original Homestead all their lives. Their grandson, Keith West, is now president of the corporation, or LLC, that owns the farm now. Correspondence. Mark Claypool said, "Outstanding today, Jackie. Thank you." Tricia Weegan said, "This was a good listen. Thank you for sharing the history of our family." The next EV Alumni Luncheon will be August 31st at the Main Street Pub and Grub in North English. Please contact Linda Carter or Alice Stramer for seating. On September 17th, we are planning on having a Carter, Iowa and Yankee Point reunion. We will have lunch first at 11:30 a.m. at the Main Street Pub and Grub. Please make reservations with me so we will know that we have seating. After lunch, we will go to the History Center to visit and view the Yankee Point Women's Club signature quilt and share pictures and stories of times long ago. Virginia Carter Hoppenstedt from Independence, Missouri will be coming with the quilt. She would like to see other Carter family nieces and nephews and other relatives, class members from her North English class before she moved to Florida in 4th grade, and anyone else who wants to see the quilt. I will get a full list of the names on the quilt ready for next week. The next program at the History Center will be at 2 p.m. on Sunday, August 30, and will be Sandra Kessler host with What Happened to the Iowa. Please join us for the program and treats. A free will donation will be taken. We are also interested in learning about English Valley's historical items that you might wish to donate to the History Center. Please contact Dave Jackson, Scott Romine, or any board member to donate. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
And that's a wrap. Thanks, Jackie.
And about that, and now it's that statement about bringing stuff, bringing.
Yeah.
Stop.
As
Quiet.
she's
Shut up.